All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Once again, my name's Tom Lyons. I'm a senior engineer here with Inflow Communications, and I'll be taking you through our webinar today on RingCentral user training. A little bit about the agenda we're going to have today. Today is going to be a nice, quick user training to get you acquainted with the RingCentral app to make sure that you know what you're looking at. Before we get started with that, we are going to talk a little bit about Inflow Communications and what we do here. So just a little bit about us and what we do, what we can do to help you guys out. Inflow has been focused on contact center and unified communication solutions for the past 11 plus years. Voice is what we do. As a result, we don't branch into other networking technologies such as networking equipment, switches, and routers. Everybody here is well versed and certified in the voice applications that you use. And as a result, anytime you call in and get assistance, you're going to be talking directly with an engineer who is well focused on your platform and will be able to help you out. We currently have over 50 employees headquartered in Portland, Oregon, but we are 100% remote and in field. And we currently service over 260,000 seats and 800 customers nationwide and in many cases worldwide. We like to operate with speed, urgency, and agility to make sure that we get you all the information you need as quickly as possible to make sure that your voice application is going to work exactly the way that you require it to. And we have full lifecycle guides to the UC, the CC, and the CX spaces. Here's a quick snippet of some of the customers that we support. There is a general customer profile here that you may notice. We do focus on mission critical communications, value our partnerships with strategic decision makers, and we look at and support mid-market and enterprise customers. And here's a few of our partners as well. At the end of the webinar, if you have any questions, there is a questions box within your GoToWebinar application. You can simply type your question into that box and I will answer it to the best of my ability at the end of the webinar. If there is anything that does come up that I am unable to answer directly, I will make sure to get you an answer via email by the end of the day. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring the RingCentral application to the front of the screen here. We will be going through the call manipulation options that we have available, as well as different settings that you can set up within the client here. This is the RC phone app. This is the application that most of you will be using for RingCentral for the actual phone activity. So this is the application that we are going to focus on. On my screen right now, I am on my dashboard, which is showing currently a dial pad on the left side, and then also an active call on the right. If you look down right below that, you'll see that I do have a current call connected for just under 8 minutes right now. I'm going to be using that to show you guys how to manipulate your calls, make sure that you can forward calls, put calls on hold, do everything that you need to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on this call. You'll see that it highlights when I hover over it. And when I click in, it's going to bring me to my dial pad so I can see everything about this call. I can see the phone number that I'm on with. I can see the total elapsed time in the top right, the connection quality, and if I am getting HD quality voice or not in the top left. And down below the icon here, which will show a picture if you're calling somebody internally, there are a number of options that you can do to work with this call. So let's talk about this one, all of these here, and go through each of these options. So the first one here in the top left, this is going to be your mute and unmute button. And currently you'll note that I am muted. This is just to make sure that we don't have any reverberation with the test phone that I have next to me. If I were to click this and unmute myself, it would just take the slash away and look like that. And go ahead and remute so we don't have any reverberation there. So that's how it will look when you are currently muted. It will be shaded and we'll have a slash through it. This just means that the other side can't hear you. You can still hear the other side. So this is just a local mute. To the right of that is going to be your keypad. If I click on this button, it's just going to bring up a dial pad that I can dial numbers into. This is useful if you are going to be calling an automated attendant or some sort of service that is going to require a numerical input. This will allow you to send those tones through to the other side so that you can navigate menus. So an example of that would be if you're calling your internet service provider and you need to speak with support, your keypad would allow you to do that. We also have the ability to change audio on the fly. which is this audio button in the top right. If I click this audio button, you'll notice that I can change the volume of the call via this slider here. And I can also switch the audio source. If I click on this, it's going to bring my settings tab up and allow me to change my microphone as well as my speaker that I'm using, as well as my ringer if I would like to do that as well. So you do have some setting capability changes on the fly for your call audio, which is kind of nice. If you start a call and you are accidentally on the wrong input, you can change that on the fly and rather than having to hang up and call back, which is super nice. You also have the ability to place calls on hold. If I press this button, you'll see that it will then change to on hold down below. Nothing else will change on the screen other than it is now illuminated in that dark gray, just like the mute button is. You'll note that the same timer is showing in the RingCentral phone app for the call. And at this point, the user on the other side is going to be hearing any hold messaging that is set up in your phone system. So if you have any branded messaging, they would be hearing that. When I click this button again, it's going to take them off hold and bring them back to me. So there, once I've pressed the hold button again, this call has been brought back to me and is now currently on the line with me. Other options that you have, there is a record button that you see right here. If you click on that, it's going to let everybody on the other side know that you are recording the call. So it does alert the other parties automatically for you via a system message that plays. If you just want to record a specific part of a call, you can do this with ad hoc recording, assuming it is turned on by your system administrator. At any time when you're done with ad hoc recording, you can hit stop, and that will stop the recall. And when you do that, it will send another message letting you know that the call has been recorded. Now, these calls will show up in your voicemails tab, so you will be able to listen to those there. If you want to add another person to the call, you can use this add button here. This is going to essentially work as a transfer, or not a transfer button, but a console button for you. So if I click on this add button, it's going to ask me for a name or number to add to the phone call. If I wanted to add somebody to this call internally, for example, I could type in their name. So you can see if I type Richard, I can see that the user Richard Dixon in our organization is currently busy on a call, but I could add him if I wanted to. I can also just add a different number. So if I wanted to add my RingCentral number directly, I could put that in there as well. And you'll note when I click on it, it will change the name if there's a name associated with the phone number that you were trying to add. If you just put in a number that you don't own, that's fine as well. You would just put that in there, and then you would hit the call button, and that would add these people to the conference. What it is going to do, it is going to open up a new line. It is going to start dialing this number and is going to add this person to the call so that you will then have the parties merged together. Similar to the conference capability, you also have a transfer button. The transfer button will let you do the same thing. It will allow you to enter a name or number. If you enter an external number, you have the ability to blind transfer the call, which means you just send the call to the other destination. At that point, you are done with the call. For internal transfers, you do have a few more options. So if I use the same user here, Richard Dixon, you'll notice that once I add Richard to the transfer tab here, I've got three options that open up at the bottom here. I can do a warm transfer, a blind transfer, or send to voicemail. So to go through each one of these options here, a warm transfer is going to actually place the person I'm talking to on hold and place a call to Richard in this case, at which point Richard would be able to pick up the call. We would be able to talk real quick. I would be able to confirm that he is able to take the call, and then I would be able to complete the transfer to him. If he's not able to take the call, I can decline to complete the transfer, go back to the person I'm on the phone with, and let them know that he's not available. So this is a way to actually check and make sure that somebody is at their desk and able to take a call before you send a call to them. A blind transfer is going to work just like the external number. If I did a blind transfer in this case, it would just send the call to Richard. Whether or not he picks up the call, I won't be able to know. I will no longer be a part of that call. So that is the quick and dirty method there. And then finally, if we know that Richard's in a meeting, or we just otherwise don't want to make Richard worry about this phone call at this particular time, or just want to get it to his voicemail box, the send a voicemail button will send the call directly to Richard's voicemail without ringing his phone, which is ideal for situations where you know somebody might be in a meeting or otherwise is preoccupied. Other options you have here, these ones are pretty cool. You've got your park option and your flip option. So let's talk about park real quick. Park is a system hold where hold is a local hold. With the hold button, the call remains yours and it is not able to be picked up by somebody else in the organization. However, if we use park, this is going to place the call at a predefined destination that somebody else can dial into their keypad to pick up the call. So if I hit park here, you'll notice that it says your call is parked at location star 800. This means that this call is actually at that destination right now. If I go into my dial pad now and I type star 800 and hit the button here, now I'm actually on the phone with the person that I placed on hold using the park option. Now note it does show star 800, it no longer does show the phone number. So that's important to note. But this will bring the call across. So what that means is you can actually use this function in addition to talking to your coworkers and seeing where they're at. Maybe you get a call for somebody that's currently across the building in another part of the building, but it's an urgent call for them. You could place the call on park, either find a way to get in touch with them, maybe some sort of collaboration tool, or use an overhead paging system, and let them know that it's parked at star 800. All they have to do is then go to a phone or a computer that's even running the RingCentral app, or a phone that's actually on the RingCentral platform, dial star 800, and that call will be pulled to them. And then finally, we have this flip button. Now the flip button, I won't be able to directly demo on this webinar today. However, I can talk about the feature and what it does. What this does is it allows you to seamlessly transfer the call between the RingCentral app on your computer and the RingCentral app on your phone. So if you do have the RingCentral application on your cell phone and you need to leave the office or you're on your way out, you can use this flip button to send the call to the application on the phone. It will wait for you to pick it up, and then all the audio will be transferred there. The cell phone application also has the same tools. So if the opposite is occurring, you're walking to your desk and you'd like to take this call from your desk instead of from your cell phone, then you can use the flip option on the RC app on the phone as well to transfer this back to your cell phone. And then finally, we have the hang up button, which I'm going to go ahead and do now, and this will disconnect the call. And then we're going to talk about some other features. So now that I'm disconnected from that call, you'll note that it is just showing the dial pad. There's no active calls tab, and that's simply because there's no active calls. In here, I can just dial a name or number to dial whoever I'd like to call, and I can even change my caller ID depending on what's been set up by my system administrator for my account. So you can see here, I actually have several different numbers that I am allowed to use here. Any one of these, if I were to choose this one, for example, the 266-4382, that would send any calls that I make outbound with that caller ID, so that would get sent through. Otherwise, this is a dial pad, works much the same way. You can dial a new phone number using the dial pad or just by typing it in at the top. I highly recommend just typing it in. It is going to be much faster for you. Now let's take a look at a few of the icons up at the top here. We're going to start with the messages tab, which you can see I actually do have several messages noted here. And in here, this is going to allow me to see all of my messages, or I can actually branch them out by the type of message that they are. So you can see here under the All tab, there's actually a few different things. I have voice messages. I also have a text message, which the system supports. And then one thing that I don't currently have, but the system also does support, is faxing. So you can do all of this through the RingCentral application. Looking through all of this, you can see the messages in historical order, if you so choose. In fact, you'll notice that I have not had a ton of messages here. So I've got one from February, then I've got one from December, then a bunch from October. Anything that you haven't listened to will be highlighted in blue, like this MyTel message here. Anything that you have listened to will just be in the plain white and black text. If I were to click on the information, the little I here, which is just a message detail, it's going to be informational. It'll give you some information about the call here, including if it is a phone call, it will show you a transcription of the email, or of the voicemail rather, because that is something that RingCentral does provide. So you can see here there is quite a bit that is showing here for this particular message. This is a nice, easy way to take a look at your messages if you are in a position where you can't listen to it directly, but do need to see what came in. This is a good way to be able to glean what's going on with that information. As well, you will be able to see things like the contact information and phone number and where it's coming from as well. So this particular text, for example, came from this phone number, and that originated from Northeast Atlanta for me. So you can see a lot of information at a glance here. If you want to filter, you can search by voice, any faxes, which you can see my fax list is empty, and by text messages. So you do have a bunch of different ways that you can filter that. You can also search for particular calls or messages by using the search tab. And you can also use the edit button to select ones that you don't want to have in here, and you could hit delete. If I hit delete here, I'll just delete those from my history. And you'll notice that those are gone on the All tab as well. Nice and easy. The next tab that we're going to look at is the Favorites tab. The Favorites tab is going to be a list of users that you can edit here. You can see their statuses, as well as you can send them a quick call or text directly from this interface. So it's kind of like the buddies list in the ShoreTel Communicator or the Mitel Connect client, if you've seen those. To take a look at this here, if I click on, for example, if I click on the edit button, I can change who's currently in my list. Note that I can't add somebody to my list here, but I can call them, I can text them, I can delete them from the list here. So if I wanted to, for example, remove Heidi from my list here, I could hit the trash can here, and this will remove her from the list. Then I click done. You'll notice that Heidi is no longer there. If I want to go ahead and add Heidi, or anybody else for that matter, back into the list, I would hit this person with the plus next to it for add contact. And then I can search for anybody that I want to add to the list. So for example, I just found Heidi, and all I have to do is make sure that the star is shaded in by clicking on it, and then hit save. And at that point, Heidi, there she is now re-added to my favorites list. So it's a nice, easy way to keep people that you talk to in a nice, concise list. You can see their call state availabilities, and you can call or text them from this bar as well. Next to the Favorites tab is a Join Now tab. This is going to be calendar integration. And calendar integration will allow you, it's going to make me sign in, so we'll talk about it here. Calendar integration is going to allow you to pull directly from either your Microsoft Outlook or Google Calendar events, show you any events that you have coming up on your calendar, and if you are setting those up to be used with RingCentral meetings, you can even join them directly from the RC phone app. So this is going to give you a much broader view of everything going on your calendar, and it just gives you another way to keep track of things, which is always nice. Next to the Join Now tab, you have your call history. This is actually going to be a history for not just your incoming, outgoing calls, but any text messages will show here as well. So you see here, I have a few different calls that are noted here. I've got my call from this morning. I've got a recorded call from this morning as well, right here. These two calls, this is actually the one I picked up from Park, and then this was the initial call at the 9:56. You can look for all of your calls. You can look for just missed calls, which will be highlighted in red in your history. And you can also listen to any of your recordings that you have in the system from this tab as well. If you want to search for one in particular, you can use the search bar. So if I search for Mitel again there, you can see that there's quite a few there. I can also clear my call log, so I can clear my history and start fresh if I so choose. I can also edit and just remove specific calls from my call history as well if I would like to do that as well. The next one is going to be your contacts tab. This is just going to be all of the contacts that you have in your RingCentral system. So you'll see here, we've got quite a few internally. If I wanted to search for somebody, I can use the search bar here. I can also add people to my favorites list from this box. So this is actually the list that comes up when I hit the add person button on the favorites menu. So this is going to be everybody that's internal to your organization. Now, if you want to create a new contact, you can hit this add contact button. And if you do that, it's just going to ask you for the first and last name, company and title, and then a phone number, any emails that you can add, and any address information that you have for this contact as well. So you can keep personal contacts internal on RingCentral also. The next tab is the HUD tab, and this is going to look really similar to the favorites tab. It does work a little bit different though. So you can see here, I've got a number of users in my HUD, And if I hover over each of them, just like before, I could call them or text them. The difference between HUD and favorites is that the favorites bar is used specifically for the RingCentral phone app, whereas the HUD is actually used so that you can program buttons on your physical phone also. So everybody that's showing on my list here is actually on my physical phone, and I can see their details on my physical phone, as well as in my RingCentral app. Now, if I want to go ahead and move this, I can actually undock this, keep it separate from the RingCentral phone app, and I can use that by itself, which is kind of cool. So I can move my HUD to the other side of my screen, keep the phone hidden, and then just use the HUD if I need to. So that's one potential option you could do there. The other thing you can do is you can edit on the HUD, and you'll notice here there are numbers next to each one of the users that are in the HUD as well. This is because these are each going to correspond to a line button that is on the physical phone. So you'll note that lines 1 and 2 show me, and they are grayed out. That's because those two buttons can never be changed. They must be held open for line appearances for yourself. It's just to make sure that you're able to answer the phone calls that get sent to you. And then everybody below is going to be on the corresponding line button. So Richard Dixon would be on line button 3, Heidi Eldon on line button 4, so on and so forth. If you want to remove somebody from one of the line buttons, you would just click on the trash can here. If you wanted to add somebody to your HUD, you would just hit the add person up at the top. So if I wanted to add Chelsea here, I could add Chelsea. And you'll see that she is now showing on line button 16, which is more than my phone supports, but just as an example, you can get phones of varying amounts of line appearances, so it just depends on what model of your phone. And then finally, that brings us back to the dial pad, which is where we started. So we've gone through the different options that the client does offer. A couple things that I wanted to show you in the settings as well, which is going to be the cog down at the bottom here. In the settings tab, you can change your language. You can change the language for spelling, which is going to just double check and make sure if there are any spelling or grammatical errors, it will let you know. You can automatically launch on startup. And if you do that, you can actually launch minimized if you want, just to have the phone available, but just not directly on your desktop. So there are a few options that you can change in here that might make your life a little bit easier. You can also set up as a default faxing and calling application. So if I hit the apply button here, you'll notice Windows will tell me that I need to go into settings and default apps to do that. If you are on an older OS, such as Windows 7, it will automatically apply those changes for you. The notifications and sounds option is going to allow you to change your microphone, your speaker, and your ringer settings. So this is just like the audio button that is present in an active call. The speaker and the ringer are separate things here. So the speaker itself is going to be what you actually hear the call audio through, but the ringer is going to be what actually alerts you to a call. So what's neat about that is if you're in a setup similar to mine, where I do work from home and I have computer speakers, and I am often up and around my house trying to get a couple things done in between calls, you can get it set up so that the ringer itself is coming through your computer speakers, so that if you're a few feet away from your PC, you can still hear it. And then once you pick up the call, it will come through your headset. So it is kind of nice to have. You can also adjust your ringtone from in here. There are two default options, Bell and Classic. And then you do have in your calls tab, you've got a few different options that you can do. You can turn your HUD on or off. Like I noted, that is more of a favorites list in the RC phone app. So if you're just using the application, HUD might be redundant for you. It doesn't hurt anything to keep it on, but you can turn it off if you just want to avoid clutter. And then you do have options to ring your phone if any user you're monitoring in your HUD receives a call. That allows you to pick up the call on their behalf. That is one of the options that HUD does offer. You can also mute other sounds during a call. So if you have other things going on your computer, maybe you're listening to music while you do work and you get a phone call, you can use that to mute those sounds. And then finally, you have the ability to block numbers. So you see here, I have a few different block numbers in here. This will just send calls directly to voicemail. If I hit the plus button here, I can add a phone number. And if I need to remove a phone number that shouldn't be in here, all I have to do is click on the X. It'll ask you if you want to unblock the number, and I will go ahead and do so, and it will just remove it from the list. And so with that, that is going to be the end of our webinar today on RingCentral user training. As always, if you do have any questions, go ahead and put those in the question and answer box right now. I'll be waiting to see if any questions do come through. Currently, we don't have any, but I'll give you guys just a couple minutes to see if anything does come up. All right, it looks like we don't have any direct questions. That's okay. If anything does come up after the webinar, we can always help as well. Here's a couple options to get in touch with us as well. If you do want to contact us for any support needs or any questions about the webinar or anything in general Inflow, you can always give us a call at 844-446-3569. Or you can also send us an email at contact@inflowcommunications.com. And if you are looking for more information on any of your voice platforms that we do support, such as your Mitel system, your RingCentral system, or Genesys Cloud, you can check out our knowledge base for more resources and videos, including the webinar that we are running today. Again, on behalf of Inflow Communications, my name is Tom Lyons. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our webinar today. We do hope to see you in the future, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks very much, everybody.